Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I want to talk about some League starter possibilities, I would say, or at least the kind of builds that I personally consider that I will take into consideration for 3.13 Echoes of the Atlas Ritual League. So first of all, I want to mention we don't have any patch notes yet, and we don't have any kind of clue what the all these ascendancy changes are going to look like. Most of them will be numeric changes, but that also includes probably buffs for some ascendancies, probably nerfs for some ascendancies. So without like this knowledge package that we get from the patch notes itself, it's hard to decide to lay down your hands on one final build that you want to play. I'm actually considering 3 builds that are probably known already on my channel, which is in one hand the Bleed Bow Gladiator or Lacerate, depending on what you would prefer more. Then the Essence Drain Contagion character and the Poison Blade Vortex Assassin. Those are the 3 types of builds that I'm taking into the consideration. But still, I want to leave some space open for some possible new skills that may be going to be announced in the next couple of days or hours, maybe. I think patch notes are going to be live like today, tomorrow, or Wednesday, something like that. I have no idea. Doesn't really matter. This video is all about how I feel about the league and what I think might be good and what I basically consider playing myself. So, let's start with the first thing. What is the league going to be like, right? So we're gonna have a lot of mapping stuff, a lot of mapping related stuff. So for example, the last 2 leagues, if we talk about those, we had Heist League, which is like a separate content that didn't really have a lot to do with maps in general, besides getting the contracts. Then we had Harvest League, which was kind of the same. In the maps itself, it was like some seed caches, but all the league itself was actually in a separate instance, which is the garden where you spawn your monsters there. So basically, those 2 leagues were not my favorite. I'm gonna admit that. It's not like that the league was bad or stuff like that. It's just like I enjoy the leagues the most that have like shit tons of monsters where it really comes down to mapping, such as Delirium League, such as Legion League, for example. Those were by far my most favorite leagues. And I think this upcoming league, Echoes of the Atlas expansion and the Ritual League, are going to be exactly like that, as we saw on all the changes to the Atlas with all the craftable watchstones and all these ascendancies for the map tiers, or at least like from the regions, you know, where you get like Beyond, where you get a Legion, where you get Soulfight, where you get like everything to make your maps even crazier than it used to be. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, to just generate some insane maps, and as well, finally looking back or taking a look back at some Magic Finders. So Magic Finders is always a great thing to do. Sadly, in the past leagues, there was just no option for it, right? So considering that is like, when would you like to Magic Find, right? Basically, if your character can do all content, or at least like farm high tier maps, because I think the best way to play the game is in high tier maps, and I'm happy about that. So it's hopefully not going to be like some Glacier tier 2 farming and stuff like that we had in the past. So if your build can clear a map fast, you know, in tier 16 or whatever, and your build is like very strong, and then you can opt in some Magic Find items, getting more items out of it, but only do that if your character will still maintain its speed, right? Yes, you're gonna drop more stuff, but in the end, you know, if your character will turn out worse than before and you need like twice as long to kill one single map with Magic Find, then it's not worth it, right? Because if you would play without Magic Find and do 2 maps in the same time, you're still gonna have way more loot than as a Magic Finder. So we're definitely gonna take a look into Magic Finding as well, but this is something later in the league, once we have currency, once we have the Atlas clear, once we have everything sorted out. So today I want to talk about the league starter. Why do I think that the Bleed Bow or an Essence Drainer or a Blade Vortex Poison will be strong? So as I said, mapping speed is one big point, and the other one is this kind of arena gameplay where you have to fight multiple bosses at once, and that leaves the big question open, like, what builds are like very good early on for bossing, right? And some people might say now, well, Bleed Bow doesn't really have good damage, right? Essence Drain, like, it's shit damage, right? Yeah, on the low side of budget, I can agree, but there is a lot of other builds that on the low side of budget will not even be able to do those bosses, right? And I think Essence Drain might be super cool because if you have Essence Drain on the target, you're gonna regen life, right? This is how Essence Drain works. And if you fight multiple bosses at the same time and you just spam your Essence Drains, maybe even with a GMP or some shit, you know, I think you're going to have some massive amounts of sustain, so I think this is one of the builds that might shine in this kind of category for bossing. Bleed Bow, one of my favorite builds, also very strong for bossing, especially when you have like your Ballista Totem or what is it, Ensnaring Arrow, where you actually do bleed damage as if the monster would be moving, and Blade Vortex Poison itself is ridiculous in terms of damage. You just, as well as like if you have a good area of effect with your Blade Vortex and you can hit multiple bosses at once and you're just going to stack up the poison, it's going to turn out quite well, I would say. So there is a lot of other boss killers that might be very strong, like any totem build or miner or something like that. But I think it might be really cool to have a build that is strong for bosses and very fast. And I say very fast because based on mapping speed and based on what we're gonna get for the maps, basically with all the what do you say, Atlas regions on steroids, if you want to call it like that, you want to maintain a very insane amount of speed. And I think the new skill that they announced, I forgot the name, but you know, this orb where you can like use stuff on it, like frost skills or something like that, so it pulsates and does damage, and you can send that orb around. I think that might be quite okay for bossing, I think, but in terms of mapping, I think it's going to be way slower than any kind of like good mapping build, so this falls off completely, as well as I don't really have a good experience with, yeah, trying out new skills in League Start. We had this last league with the Crackling Lance that was like totally garbage. I'm not saying that the skill is garbage, you know, but for a low budget side of things and like League Starter wise, it was just terrible. And there is a lot more builds that are doing a way better job at the lower side of budget. So as I said, I want to have a build that is clearing good in maps and also be able to do bosses. And I think all of my 3 builds that I'm considering are having the full potential here, as well as the Assassin, for example, with the Venus Kitchen Knife for mapping, or some Cold Iron Point daggers for insane Blade Vortex level and damage. So that should be quite fine. So let's talk about the Bleed Bow Gladiator. So Gladiator has always been one of the strongest League Starter ascendancies. Why? It's fast, it's quite tanky, I would say, or more on the tanky side. But the main thing is like the Arena Challenger charges, which makes your character insanely fast for mapping, and also you can maintain this in Bloodstance for bosses as well. So that's going to be quite nice, as well as the free bleed explosions, right? So you're not going to League Start with an explode chest, and the bleed pops are going to be quite nice for League Start for the average mapping speed. And later on, you can still, if you once get an explode chest, I would actually consider respecking your Gladiator into a champion to have permanent fortify to get you more tankiness out of your character, since you cannot really get fortify on your bow character since it's based on a melee attack and stuff, like fortify support and stuff. So that's how I see the current state of the Bleed Bow. I think League Starter early on, the Gladiator, top notch. I would always consider that. But once you have gear, once you have the damage going, I would consider going into the champion route just because of the tankiness, because at some point you're gonna have enough damage. So yeah, champion has less damage than the gladiator, but still at some point damage doesn't matter, you want to survive. So I think the champion might be a great option later on in this crucible things as well. It's going to be a bit slower than gladiator, but overall a very cool build. So some people might say now, wait a second, what about the revamped Deadeye that we've seen with the, what is it, Ravage or Rapture or something like that, with some kind of bleed stacks. I haven't really looked into it too much, but just exactly the point that I just mentioned with the gladiator versus the champion, where it's saying like damage versus survivability and more or less. And even if the Deadeye has more damage through this rupture, what it's called, right? On paper, it does sound really cool, but I don't see the tankiness part, you know? And as I said, at some point, damage will never be the problem. It's always about your survivability, because dead characters cannot deal damage anyways, right? So even, let's assume the Deadeye would have the most bleed damage. I don't think that it will bring the tankiness to actually do those insane kind of maps and bosses early on in the league. So that leaves me open with the next one, which is Assassin's Drain Contagion. I would play it as the Trickster because I like the movement speed, the cast speed, and stuff like that. You can play it as an Essence Drain Contagion, as a Spellslinger, and if you say like, dude, my damage sucks, or especially for like single target bosses, you can always opt in and empower support to just boost your Essence Drain damage and just play it like self-cast Essence Drain Contagion just for the big boost here, right? It's quite okay for bosses, I would say, or good as for bosses, as I said, with the self-sustain, and then spamming Blight as a filler, and you can play it as an occultist as well, but I've seen the changes to occultist. It was like more or less some numeric changes, nothing like too special where I would say like, holy shit, this is the time occultist is back, boys. Trickster is shit, right? It might be that in the later stages when we get the patch notes and all the ascendancy changes are going to be revealed, that Trickster maybe suck, you know, like maybe, who knows, right? So there's always the option for the occultist, but I personally, I don't like the profane bloom, like the explosions, right? I would never really play an Essence Drain Contagion character with explosions, neither with an explode chest nor like anything like that, just because it destroys your chain reactions or can destroy it. And Essence Drain itself, Essence Drain Contagion, has such an insane clearing potential. It doesn't need any proliferation or explode or something like that. So keep that in mind if you pick your ascendancy choice on that part. And the last one, as I played, I think last league, was that after the failed Correcting Lens build, I decided, you know what, let's just go safe. Let's just try out the Blade Vortex Poison Assassin, because I heard so much good review about that, and I tried it myself, and it was an absolute breeze. So I've done the entire Atlas within the first 5 days, although switching characters, I had to level up a new character and on day 2 or 3 of the league. But the Assassin, with its like freaking 250% movement speed, was so fast, and the clearing potential with Venus Kitchen Knife, with the poison proliferation, that I didn't really lost time at all, you know, because if I have a good league start, usually around 5 or 6 days, the Atlas is clear. Last league, with the reroll, I still made it in 5 days, which just showed how insanely fast the Assassin is on the Blade Vortex, on the Poison Proliferation and stuff. The first Saurus 8 that I did last league was also with the Poison Blade Vortex, and it was deathless on top of that. So, yeah, I would say a lot of people say it's squishy, right? But I don't really feel like that. I think the Assassin, with the elusive and stuff, is actually quite tanky. You can build it quite tanky as well with like, you can even go hybrid if you want to, but I would say like a health pool of like 6k or something should be fine to conquer all early content in the game. And as I said, with the amount of mapping speed that we're gonna one or half basically with this overloaded maps, it's going to be a breeze to play any of those 3 characters. So, based on the Lacerate, so I mentioned that one as well. I've seen Steel Mage playing a shit ton of Lacerate, Gladiator, Max Block, in all the races and Hardcore Solo Self-Found. So if he can pull it off in Hardcore, I mean, yeah, he's a very strong player. Like, not gonna lie, right? But if he can pull off a very good Lacerate, Bleed, Gladiator, in solo self and hardcore, then we can actually manage to do that in softcore trading league as well. At least shouldn't be too hard on that part if you want to take a look into that too. All the videos that are shown on the screen with all the 3 builds that I'm considering are in the description below. As I said, there is no path of building link yet. We don't know anything about possible new skills, so there might be actually, it's like, I think they're going to be new skills, right? Because every single league we have like, what, 3, 4, 5, 6 new skills or revamps or something like that. And the only thing we have seen now was this new skill and the Trinity support, which is more like for the Elementalist of side. So I hope there is going to be more. It's just like, usually you have the trailer and then it's like 18 or 15 days to go. And then in the next 2 weeks, basically, they're going to pump us out with like new information, new revamps, the level 20 skill gems and all the kind of stuff. This time it's very squeezed because we have the trailer and a week later is league start. So in the next, like, maybe while I'm recording this video, we get new information that I haven't seen yet. So we're just gonna wait and see, and then on the last point, on Friday before league start, I'm going to make a video about the league starter itself, how I plan to build it and stuff like that. This is just my personal opinion about the league starters that I consider. There is shit tons of more league starters that might be good, like any kind of trapper or maybe even summoner. It's just like I have no experience on those, so I don't want to tell you guys like, yo, go, I don't know, aura stacking necromancer with golems or carrion golems or shit like that, if I personally never played it as a league starter, so I can't really give you the opinion. Like, at some point we're gonna have enough currency to just try out every fancy build that we want. I'm especially looking forward to this Black Fire Ring, or what is it called, where Ignite deals like chaos damage. So maybe we can pull off some fancy things right there, or with the new alternate bases, or the new base types with the Fortify effect, so we can make builds where you can just like negate the negative effect and then just live with the positive things. And as I said, League start is something that is important for me, basically, or for many people that are pushing into high currency states. It's just like your league start want to be safe. You want to pull as much out of the character as possible with the minimum amount of currency, basically. Clear your entire content, make your first currency, and then afterwards the second build, the third build, however you want to play it, or how many you want to play. Then you can like be experimentative with like trying out new things, new skills, or new builds, or the revamped ascendancy classes, stuff like that. But I personally always try to go at the safe side and just have a good league start and just farm up the currency, and then after everything is done with the Atlas and stuff like that, then it's time to like try out new fancy builds and maybe find the next best league starter for 3.14 or PoE 2 or whatever is going to come next. Good. Guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and please tell me in the comments what league starters you are considering for 3.13 Echoes of the Atlas with the Ritual League. Yeah, I think that's it. Peace out.